Right.
So you mentioned something, factory farming. This is good because I also hear about corporate farming, and somehow the language it bothers me because again, I don't blame the consumer because he really doesn't understand what's going on in 40 miles from the city on the farms. So they're, because they don't understand, and because it is actually very complicated, it's you can't condemn them for hearing about industrial farming and corporate farming and factory farming as being evil or something dark and sinister. This is sort of the portrayal that's come from, let's say, it's a pernicious little horrible branding that's sort of taken over in the last 20 years. It's malicious, pernicious, it's ill-founded, and ultimately if you're concerned about feeding the world, humanity, we should be much more careful with our language than we are, because you can really damage an industry that's producing food to feed the world. And lest we forget, there's about 5 billion people on the planet today that live on less than $10 a day. 5 billion.
I know it.
And these people have to have cheap food.
Yes.
And this sort of this naughty condemning of modern, large, productive agriculture is, I think, is a real slippery slope to hurting our ability to feed, people that desperately need a lot. We need a lot of people to feed, and they've got to have it cheap.
They do. Their
economies,
they can't afford to buy it otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they might call your farm the Next Gen Dairy, who are all about, I know you guys and anyone listening will get the feeling like you love what you're doing, you love your cows, and you have a vision, like an admirable vision to live into for your from your dad and mom, and from you and Mary to Megan and Tim, and the next generation after that. It's to me it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing to try and make happen. But even people, they would call you guys a factory farm or a corporate farm, but the reality is you're a family farm that's incorporated.
Right.
And that's all. So that it's like a slander. It's a cheap slander. And it's not nice, huh?
No, you're right. The way to damage someone's, image is give them a label.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can do that to an individual. Label them as something. Call them something.
Right.
And label them, and that's what happens to a lot of farms. Give them a label, and then use words that are misrepresented, like corporate farming. Well, travel across and you'll find small organic farms even that are incorporated because they do it for tax reasons and they do it for insurance reasons. They're S corps. It can start from small farms to large farms. There's corporate farms that are 30 cow dairies, and there's corporate farms that are 3,000 cow dairies because they're S corps. They do it for tax reasons. But we'll label the large one a corporate farm. Give it that tag.
And then
or a factory farm. Give it that tag. Give it a label so that we can, misrepresent them and cause them harm by their label, just as you can do to an individual. Give them a label and then see what happens to them. Call them something. Misrepresent them.
It's a funny thing.
It is. It's a funny, and we went through a little bit of this, and then what is large? That's that's a question.
It's pretty nebulous.
It is.
Large to you is not large to me, and maybe it's tiny for Megan. It's like.
Well, that's right. The average.
And who is Megan to say?
We looked up the average farm size in the U.S. is 260 some cows. So.
Yeah.
Someone that is producing their own cheese and a little organic thing, milking 30 cows, would say 260 is large.
Yeah.
The 260 cow dairy would say, like, I'm not large enough to survive anymore.
Yeah.
I need to expand.
Yeah.
Because of what the market conditions, and I need this much for family living. I only generate this much per cow. So I need to keep growing and getting larger. And then you have multi-family farms together that are large, like ours, you might call large. And then we see, travel, especially out of the state of Minnesota, to some of the farms. They're large. We're teeny.
Exactly. We have dairies here in Minnesota that a family dairy, but they're incorporated, so you could call them a corporate farm. I think 95% of all dairy in the U.S. is family-owned farms.
I think you're right.
95%. Yeah. So basically, you just say everyone is a family farm in the U.S., and you're highly accurate to say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And that just so happens that they're incorporated.
Yes.
And so that's the reality. Now, it's a weird thing because everything else that the consumer in the city, whether they're living in Minneapolis or they're in London or they're in Singapore or Bangkok, everything else they consume in their life, they're wearing eyeglasses, right? They went to the doctor. That hospital is incorporated. They went to the glass lens company to buy their glasses. Well, it's from LensCrafter. That's incorporated. They get a headache, so they buy Tylenol or their child has got a fever, and so they buy aspirin, and that's from a company that's incorporated. It happens to be Bayer in Germany. Mm-hmm. The car they drive is from a company that's incorporated. I mean, everything, their phone, of course, is from Apple, and that's cool. So everything in their life is coming from companies that are incorporated, but for some mental gymnastics reason, they've been trained, or they have this visceral response to saying, "Whoa, but our food it can't come from a corporate farm." It's a weird dichotomy.
Yeah. Sure
so
is.
And I think that's something that the dairymen and the beef industry and our friends in food production, let's say, we need to be able to push back against this because ultimately the slander is not useful to you.
No.
And it's certainly not useful to the bigger goal, which you guys are into, which is feeding the world. So we should be more careful about our language.
Yeah.
And how we paint, how we label.
Yes. Take those labels on people.
Yeah.
We have to remember too, in America, there's such a wide variety in sizes of farms. There are farms producing the milk that's a buck sold $2 for $3 in the store. Yeah. There's milk here in Minnesota that's being sold direct from farm in a glass bottle.
Yeah.
And so rather than tearing the whole dairy industry down by calling big farms corporate farms, if you're the type of person that really values that farm connection, there's product available for you to purchase.
Yeah.
But if you go and you're starting to slander corporate farms, you really hurt the people that can't afford to buy food for their family.
Right.
Because we have to face it, there's a large majority of Americans that can't afford to spend $5 for a half gallon of milk.
No.
In a glass bottle.
In a glass bottle. They need the 2 for $3 because they have 4 little ones. Yeah. Or they have 3 teenage boys to feed. And a house payment and insurance to pay for and college for their kids. So if you are a person that really, really has a point of view, don't tear everybody down for it. There is, a niche market for you to buy the product that you really value, and support that farm, and that's
right.
But there's room for everybody at the table.
Such a good point. there's room for everyone at the table. That's such a good metaphor too.
Yeah.
It is one good thing about the dairy industry. It is diverse.
Yeah.
From size of farms, and you know, in a lot of small farms are finding they're starting to do their own on-farm processing or that type of thing.
Yeah.
Organic farms.
Yeah.
They're one of the most profitable dairies out there right now.
Yeah.
You know, because they can get a real good price for their product.
Yeah.
You know, it takes the
the
right people to manage those because they're difficult to do it. You know, they do it on a smaller scale. It takes great management ability.
Yeah.
So, and you can buy organic milk. You can buy milk in a glass bottle from a local farm if you really want
raw
to.
Milk. Can you buy raw milk?
Not in Minnesota.
Some states you still can.
Some states you can. It really varies state by state.
Yeah.
So there are regulations.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
you know, raw milk, that's a whole other topic, but that comes down to the TB. That's TB, brucellosis, and herd health, and so
transmissible
foodborne illnesses, and that becomes a whole other discussion on raw milk. But Dad is right. The dairy industry is great because it's really diverse, and we all do things differently to accomplish the same goal.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
To provide a high quality, safe food product, whether it's cheese, whether it's yogurt, ice cream, that people, you know, that's there for their choosing, their palate taste.
Yeah, and their wallet.
Right.
You got it. Okay, so you mentioned something good. It's a big table. All welcome at the table, but I would say that the caveat to that is something that I call, you know, devouring your brother, and it's like a Cain and Abel story from the Bible, and I see, because I like what you said and I believe in it myself. I think that is the absolute best way to go. Is to, if someone wants to make craft cheeses, and we have a friends not far from here who are the Redhead Creamery.
Yeah,
they're doing such an amazing job. Their products are they're awesome.
Yeah,
you know, and it's family, and their daughters and dad and mom, and their cheeses are magnificent, and so they decided, like, they're courageous to create a business model around, I don't know if they got 200 cows, and they're really building this beautiful brand of cheese products, like artisan cheese. So it's like, hallelujah, good on you. And then there's others, and you mentioned organic farming. But what I don't like about the organic farming is it's like I have friends here that are farming organically, and good on them, because there's a premium product to be had. And I wish them every success of producing food that the consumer wants. But what I don't want to see is, it's not them, but I don't want to see this devouring your brother, where the only way you can get ahead with organic farming is to condemn progressive farms that are using technology.
Exactly.
And that's, to me, is very naughty. That's
abused really bad.
Yeah.
It's used to the consumer to say that my product is better than yours because you're using technology to produce yours, and that's not true. And I can, and that's where I go back to what my dad would say. What's happening today? This technology is producing really good, safe, quality products, and cheaply. Yeah. So it gives a consumer a choice. But you're right, and I don't think we don't label organic as like we've got a better product than them. Right. But there is a huge group of people, from consumers to whoever.
Well, they've built this marketing pyramid around
that. You have a bad product, it's not as healthy for you.
Exactly.
And ours is better, healthier for you, and whatnot. Yeah. And that is not necessarily, that's not
good. True. No. It's not honest, in fact.
No, it isn't.
So it's a dishonest slander.
Yes.
And it's also, again, it's a short-term thing. I come from a marketing background, so I know all about set up your straw man and knock him down, right? Or play out the good versus evil. It's an ancient story, that everyone, but it's ancient and it's an easy one. So you set up progressive beef farming, progressive dairy farming as being highly progressive, intensive, efficient, and large, whatever large is. And you set that up as being non-virtuous. It's not good for whatever reasons you want to paint into that.
Yes.
And then they say, but the good news is you can buy our, organic, regenerative, agroecological product, whatever that virtue, And so it's a sneaky little game in the consumer that we talked about. 350 million Americans, 330 million Americans have never been on a farm. They don't know anything about what's happening. So it's easy for them to maybe get pulled into this, misunderstanding, obfuscation.
Yeah.
Where if I buy the organic thing that's doesn't have any progressive technology in it, then I'm somehow it's more healthy, more virtuous and this is wrong. And for me, I worry about it, and I'm going to get your opinion on it. But I worry about it because it's back to feeding the world. In America, we can afford to pay more for our food. Not all of us, but a lot can.
Yeah, you're right.
But the 5 billion living on less than $10 a day, if we condemn technology here and paint it as being bad and unsafe and nefarious, then the ability for Africa, sub-Indian continent, the emerging countries of the world, the ability for them to adopt these technologies is reduced, and you're going to condemn them to hunger and suffering.
Yes.
And this is so. That's why I say it's such a short, selfish game that they're playing. Does this sound right? True to you?
I agree with you, 100%. Mm-hmm. The wealthy across the world can say, yeah, let's not use technology and to produce food, but when we do that, it's a supply-demand thing. We would drive the cost of food high. And it is a selfish thing for the wealthy to say that of the world. Let's not use technology. Let's do it where we get lower yields and whatnot.
Yeah.
But it's a supply-demand. When this many people across the world want to eat, and we decrease the supply because we don't use technology, who can afford to buy the food now?
Exactly.
We impoverish more people yet.
Impoverish them.
We do, and we hold them into that class down there, and they can't get out because there's the saying is,
point.
you have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But start going without food, you have one problem.
One problem.
And that's what happens to the poor people across the world when you start limiting the supply of food to them, one way or another. And if it's through technology where you drive the demand up and the supply down, you take away all their problems and give them one problem, and that is survival of being able to feed your children,
feed your family.
So it's a selfish. It comes back to, you're right. It's a selfish statement by the wealthy of the world.
Yeah.
And you've traveled the world to see what goes on, but I tell my children, people I know, you need to leave Minnesota
to go look
to see what's happening across the world. And you don't really need to leave Minnesota with the internet and technology, but the idea is on your mindset, you need to leave Minnesota and see what's happening across the world.